What are some of the faiths that you rely on to maintain that strength?
Maybe it's partly the fact that I'm half Asian, but I've always had an interest, ever since I was quite young, in Eastern philosophy, specifically Buddhism. I've studied some meditation. I've been to Buddhist meditation retreats. I'm not officially a Buddhist, never taken vows or anything like that, but I would say of all the major religions, it's the one I'm closest to, and those are the books that I go to when I need guidance, spiritual or whatever. I've visited Asia. I've played in Asia. I've met great martial artists and learned a lot from them. I think that Zen is a concept that applies to, of course, everything, as anybody who studied Zen knows. But I feel it applies particularly well to music. The whole array of Zen concepts, such as detachment, no-mindedness, things like that, those apply extremely well to musicians. The best concerts we give are the ones where we are capable of going outside of ourselves and transcending the ego, the desire to please, the desire to succeed. I think human history has shown that those men who have accomplished great things have done so, or have never done so, by trying to do it for somebody else. And that's very, very important key to succeeding in not just this field, but anything else, is that you have to transcend the desire to reach a goal and to achieve success. Happiness is a byproduct very much of the process of striving for something greater than oneself. And success should be achieved the same way. So you're looking at it from a different perspective. And I think it's the ideal way to go, because that way when you're sitting at the piano playing a piece like Brahms or Beethoven, ideally the audience forgets that they're listening to so-and-so playing whatever. They'll remember afterwards, oh yes, this was a performance by so-and-so that was incredible and unforgettable. But in the moment, they are very, very moved, and they are in direct communion with the composer, because it's all about the composer. It's not about, oh, so-and-so playing this. It's all about the composer, seen it, of course, in a very different light from one musician to another. So I think it's a combination of the artist and the composer's music. And those concepts are very, I don't know, they're very, very Zen-like to me, and that's probably why that's what I've locked onto, and that's what works. That's what works for me.
You mentioned earlier in this interview that one of the ways you helped support yourself while you were going to school and developing your talent was to teach. And I'd like to ask you, for that reason, do you actually enjoy teaching?
I do, very much so. I'm fortunate now. I've been teaching for a while, so I've got enough of a reputation that I've got some very good students coming to me. One in particular is a 12-year-old kid who's, I would definitely say, a prodigy. He's playing pieces that I myself only played at the age of 19 or 20. So he's already got a huge head start over me. And the kid is great. I love teaching young children and older teenagers. But I prefer right now young children just because I need the flexibility. The older they are, the more work it takes. You can't just give them an hour lesson. You have to give them more time, and I don't always have that time. So I prefer younger students.
What are some of the sacrifices that you've had to make in order to be a better teacher?
I call it a sacrifice. It's not a sacrifice I made to become a better teacher. I'd sort of rephrase that by saying I didn't make those sacrifices purposefully. I did it because I had no choice, and as a result, I became a better teacher. For example, I was saying earlier, I was not somebody who was born with an incredible amount of technical ability. I was fairly talented for my age, playing relatively advanced pieces, but I was really not the most talented kid in the city or in the country. I wasn't winning big competitions at a young age. In fact, I entered my first competition relatively late. But and though I cursed that lack of talent and ability for many years, later on it dawned on me that this was my karma. This is the fact that I had to struggle so hard to understand how to play some of these extremely difficult pieces, as opposed to other pianists who were literally almost born playing them. I do have an advantage that a lot of these pianists don't have, which is I can actually teach somebody with technical problems how to overcome those difficulties. Very often the problem with great virtuoso pianists, they're wonderful if you're an advanced student. Your technique is rock solid, you go to a great virtuoso, and that's fine, you'll learn a lot. But if you're a beginner or an intermediate student, you're talented, but your means are, you still have technical problems, and you go to a great virtuoso, he, as much as he may want to try to help you, he may simply not be able to, because he will not relate to your problem. He's never had it. It's not just in music. I would venture to say that, well, just look at boxing, it's a perfect example. The greatest boxers, I've never seen a great boxer become a great coach. It doesn't happen. Very often the coach is a little old white guy who probably can't hit a fly. So the ability to teach and the ability to play are two completely and very often unrelated things. Except that for me personally, this is very much of a personal choice, but it's just important for me to do both, to teach and to play, to perform. I would be I find at a disadvantage if I only focused on one at the expense of the other. Although these days I do much prefer playing, and I'm going to be doing more and more playing and a little bit less teaching. I find the two complete each other very well.
You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles. We'll be back after this.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. If you are an adult and want to get a handle on this once and for all, you need this seminar. Being an adult male virgin can be most stigmatizing in today's society. You feel like a failure in the eyes of the mass culture around you, alienated from your male friends who all talk about their sexual conquests, and you must hide this shameful secret lest they use it against you. And the very personal pain, anguish, and despair that cannot be described by words that haunts you every moment of your life. Enough is enough. It is time for male virgins to take charge of their sex lives. Frank gives you the rules of winning in this seminar. The Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. Make your first time the best time of her life. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys turn into men.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. Ladies, does your man squash your inner vixen? When you ask him to repeat what you have just said to him, does he look at you like a deer caught in the headlights? Does he think that leaving the game on while you talk to him is a good idea? Is his favorite phrase, "Yes, dear, you are absolutely right"? Does wife or girlfriend